Hello there, I'm Lady Loy on Gold Standard Radio, and today I wanted to talk about the bomb that dropped in Nigeria and to give it some perspective. I've only got 10 minutes and I've got a lot to share, so I'm going to read straight from my notes so I can keep within those boundaries. Beyond the headline, what Trump bombed Nigeria really means. There's a phrase that has been moving fast this week, racing through headlines, timelines, and conversations. Trump bombed Nigeria. Four words that carry weight, that land heavy, that arrive already loaded with history, memory, and power. They arrive for many of us already carrying fear and unfinished conversations about sovereignty, authority, and the lives caught in between. And when you hear it, it's natural to react with alarm because those words don't come neutral. They come with echoes of past interventions in Africa, with the memory of foreign power being exercised on someone else's soil, with all the uncertainty of what happens next. But before we let panic or anger fill in the blanks, it's worth slowing down, listening carefully, and asking what actually happened. The event itself, in the narrowest sense, was a targeted US airstrike in northwest Nigeria, aimed at an extremist group linked to the so-called Islamic State. Nigerian authorities later indicated that the operation was carried out with the state's awareness and coordination, though the details about who made which decisions and how they were reached have not been made public. It's worth pausing on that line. When reports say that Nigerian authorities cooperated, that usually means something far narrower and more procedural than many people imagine. It can mean that permission was given, that Nigeria did not treat the strike as a violation of its airspace or sovereignty, and that the United States did not act secretly or in opposition to the Nigerian state's stated position. It can also mean intelligence sharing. Nigerian security services may have provided information about the location or identity of an armed group already designated as a terrorist threat, and in some cases it simply means coordination at a military level rather than a political one. Basic communication between defence officials to avoid overlap, confusion or accidental harm to Nigerian forces operating in the same area. What it does not automatically mean is collusion, a secret deal or an endorsement by ordinary Nigerians. And yet, given Nigerians' history with corruption and fragile public trust, it is easy to see how the word cooperation might be heard differently, as collusion or selling out, even when it is, in practice, a narrow and procedural reality. The same is true of the announcement itself. The first public confirmation came directly from the US president rather than quietly through the military or after careful press briefings. There is an argument for this approach. Speaking early can stop rumours from spreading, provide clarity in real time, and signal deliberate intent. But there is another side to that coin. When a leader announces force without immediate context, it can sound more like assertion than explanation. It can feel like power being demonstrated rather than information being shared. And for many listeners, especially those with personal and historical ties to Africa, that style of communication can heighten fear, even when the action itself is limited and targeted. So yes, 4 words can feel like a headline meant to shock, but the underlying reality is much more measured, much more procedural, much more complicated. Because Nigeria itself is no stranger to violence. This is not a country at peace. Over the years, civilians, Christians, Muslims, and others have faced the devastating impact of extremist groups, armed bandits, criminal gangs, and conflicts over the land and resources. Villages have been emptied, schools attacked, places of worship destroyed, families displaced, children learning the sound of gunfire before the sound of safety. Christians have been killed in attacks explicitly targeting their communities, yes. Churches have been burned, pastors abducted, worshippers murdered, That pain is real and it deserved to be named, but Muslim communities have also been targeted, mosques destroyed, imams killed, villages massacred. Extremist groups kill anyone they consider a threat or a traitor. Faith is one part of identity, but not always the sole motive. This is why analysts and human rights observers urge caution with simplified labels like Christian genocide, not because they deny suffering, but because the evidence suggests a far more complex picture. Violence overwhelmingly targets civilians, not just a single religious group. Identity may influence vulnerability, but the threat is broader. And this complexity extends to Nigeria's capacity to respond. You might ask, why couldn't Nigeria have solved these problems through policing or by enacting curfews with military oversight as they do in Jamaica? The answer lies in scale, geography and capacity. Nigeria is enormous, over 225 million people spread across vast rural areas, deserts and forests. Police and security forces are often under-resourced, undertrained and sometimes constrained by corruption or inefficiency. Extremist groups are mobile, armed and strategically elusive. Deploying troops or imposing curfews may protect a town, but it cannot reach remote villages or prevent militants from relocating. Intelligence, technology and precision are crucial in ways that local capacity alone may not yet provide. That is part of why targeted foreign support occurs. US involvement is typically limited, technical and intelligence driven, providing tools and capabilities apparently that can locate and neutralise specific threats. It is not a takeover and it does not replace the Nigerian government's primary responsibility to protect its people. It is a narrow form of support for a specific problem that has grown too big to solve alone. Even so, the human impact remains the same. Ordinary Nigerians, mothers, farmers, students, traders are living with fear and uncertainty. They did not ask for this to happen on their soil, and their lives are shaped by decisions over which they have little voice. And this is why context, care and communication matters so much. The way power is exercised, the way announcements are made, the words used to describe cooperation or action can either inflame fear or build understanding. They can signal transparency or deepen distrust. And in a world where headlines travel faster than verification, perspective is a form of protection. Because the story is not only about the strike, it is about the lives affected, the communities navigating insecurity, the long-term solutions required, rebuilding trust, strengthening institutions, ensuring accountability, addressing disputes over land and resources, dismantling criminal networks and making violence carry consequences again. Those are not solutions that save lives, even if they do not make headlines. Those are the solutions that save lives, even if they do not make dramatic headlines. So when you hear Trump bomb Nigeria, pause, listen, ask for the context behind the words. Understand that cooperation does not equal collusion, that announcement does not equal boastfulness, that the threat on the ground is real, complex and deeply human, and that perspective does not weaken the truth, it strengthens it. And in times like these, clarity is not calmness, it's care. Because what matters most is that we see the people at the centre of this story, not only the headlines, that we understand the layers of fear, governance and human resilience, and that we remember power may be loud, but human lives, quiet, fragile, enduring, are what give it meaning. This piece reflects verified reporting and analysis. Hold on one sec. This piece reflects verified reporting and analysis available at the time of broadcast, drawing on the perspectives of international journalists, conflict researchers and human rights observers. It does not determine legal responsibility or intent and recognises that situations involving conflict are complex and continue to evolve. So I've tried to give a balanced perspective on what seems to be happening. We can only go by what is out there, what is published, and yeah, I hope I've given you some perspective anyway. And that's all. That's all I've got to say for now. Lady Loy on Gold Standard Radio, Saturdays 7 till 9.